a lot of really great things that come with automation and technology changes. And to me, it's foolish because I think that these longshoremen, first of all, my biggest problem with unions, I don't have a problem with private sector unions existing. It's not like I'm anti. I think they're kind of foolish sometimes, and you're seeing fewer and fewer workers wanting to opt into them because they don't see the benefits of them like there were 50 years ago or something. I just think that it's crazy to me that this longshoreman, the head of the union, gets paid over $1 million a year for that job. His two sons are also employed by the union and get $600,000 a piece for they're not even defined roles. So this one family is pulling down like $2.5 million.
Nepotism.
Right. So the one family, because this union, is pulling down $2.5 million, and they're willing to wreck the economy. They knew that like this is going to piss off Democrats, potentially loses the election for Democrats going into the holiday season. They know exactly what they're doing. And by the way, the East Coast Union, an important thing I did not know until this week, and it makes sense if you think about it, our East Coast stuff. So this is Maine to the Gulf of Mexico, all the way down to Texas. That's this union, the ILA. We had the West Coast one go on strike last year before, around the same time. Coincidentally, it's always leading into Christmas and holiday stuff. We do way more exports out of the East Coast and way more imports from the West Coast, which makes sense. China coming into the West Coast. So it's really not stuff coming from China. That wouldn't make any sense to go around the entire United States coming from China. It's all the stuff that we're making and exporting. So they weren't holding hostage the goods that you go buy from China. They were holding hostage American companies that build things and make things and then export them. That's farmers, that's car manufacturers. So really, they played it like, oh, stuff's going to not be on the shelves. That would have happened for sure because like about a third of what they do is imports, but it's imports from Europe and stuff. It's not
the supply chain thing that might be what you're talking about that also hit out here. Because I remember DeSantis was saying about wanting to send, because there were still things that were waiting here to be unloaded for some reason.
Well, it's because when the West Coast strike happened, like I said, last year before, they started rerouting stuff to the East Coast. And they were starting to do the same thing. Yeah.
The quickest thing they could do was the Panama Canal, of course. And they were worried that by the time it got even that far, the strike might be over.
Right. And then you're paying a bunch of shipping costs for nothing, for no reason.
Now there's a backup at the canal, which, by the way, is not wide.
No, it's not.
That's not like, I don't even know what the Hudson River, or it's a lane. And you take that big shipping, I keep wanting to say yacht. You take that big boat, ship, straight
container ship,
through it. There's no turning. Once you're in, you're going out the other side.
Yep.
And so they're worried about like, well, if we make the decision to send, what happens because now we offload it in Miami and got to get those things to LA anyway.
Yep.
And that was also a time when a lot of the truck drivers were pissed off.
Yeah. And so, and by the way, truck drivers were pissed off on this one too, because they're backlogged. They can't work. And so this is something where, here's my question. I don't understand how we are okay. Like I said, unions, if you want to have a union to build cars at GM, whatever, I don't care, because if you guys go on strike and stop making cars, I can go buy a Honda. Like that's only detrimental to that company. And so, it's not the entire industry that's affected by that.
That's why, yes, it is, because those car makers are paired up against the United Auto Workers Union.
Well,
which is all the companies.
Well, but it's not all the companies. It's not Toyota and Honda and BMW and all the other companies that are making cars.
Toyotas are made here now. Toyotas are made in like Tennessee.
Well, yeah, but they're not part of UAW. They're not part of UAW though.
No, maybe not.
They're not unionized with Toyota. So my point is, like,
the most recent one,
right? So my point is,
they made some agreements with Ford that Chevy didn't bless yet, and so they had to go that way. And there was like that delay. It's like getting a bill through the House, but you still got to get it through the Senate, or vice versa.
Yeah, but my point is, there are car companies made in America that are not unionized, and there are some that are, and so there's a competition thing there. We come with the shores and the docks. we have these ports that the United States is in charge of, and then we let one union completely cripple. We give them the power to completely cripple the whole United States economy. So they can hold the economy hostage for whatever they want. They asked for 77% raises over 6 years. Do you think anyone listening right now thinks they're going to be making 77% more money than they are 6 years from now in 2030? That's a very high number. They settled on 66. That's why they rejected 50% raise. They settled on 66 to in the strike for 90 days or whatever, and they're still working out the automation stuff. But to me, the raise part is the least offensive part. To me, the automation part's the offensive part. If we really want manufacturing to ramp up, which it seems like both Kamala Harris and Donald Trump won't stop talking about, we need to manufacturing jobs. First of all, manufacturing jobs are less paid than the average worker in America. So why are we so excited about jobs that don't pay better than the average in America? I think we should be trying to create higher paying jobs in America. So it's not that I'm anti-manufacturing. It's just that manufacturing has changed. And to not embrace technology and robotics and automation in any industry is foolish. And it's crazy to me that 45,000 workers can cripple and ruin a lot of small businesses, a lot of big businesses, get other people fired from their job. You're talking about millions of jobs that would potentially be lost if they really went through with it. And let's say this lasted several weeks instead. $5 billion a day in economic losses. And not to mention, on top of all that, if you want manufacturing to be better in America, we have to be able to ship that stuff quickly. The reason people put manufacturing in China is because their ports work really, really well. They're very efficient. They're mostly automated. They're biggest ones. And so if you have a company that manufactures something, you can get it from manufacturing to shipping to where it sells on a shelf way faster in China than you can in the United States. And we don't talk about that being a problem in the United States.
Child labor and whatever else.
And it is. Our ports are very, very well, but not at the ports. I'm talking about the ports specifically. At the ports specifically, it's automation. And because we're fighting the automation battle with these unions.
The whole process is still faster and cheaper because of things like the child labor and the automation. But I wanted to.
But yeah, I don't think there's child labor at the docks necessarily. I've not seen any evidence of that in China. It's they're using robots and automation.
The whole process. But you were saying what unions are doing to the country, and I'm pro-union because I worked for 21 years without a union, without anybody to stand up for me that had any real juice. And so I know what it's like to get screwed, both in your career, personally. You need somebody to defend you. But every time a contract is up, they just say, okay, well, the contract's up. It's time for more money.
Yeah, but
that's not what a union is supposed to be doing.
Right.
And that's my dad, who used to work at B.F. Goodrich, he used to make tires and unload rubber in the yards for B.F. Goodrich. He said the union cost him his job. That was back in the 80s.
Yeah. But okay, if you think unions are better, but why? But give me the case for unions right now. I'm not saying they've never been historically necessary, but give me the case for unions for stuff like dock workers and United Auto Workers.
What's the book?
When people are choosing to not join them now in right to work states.
Hold on.
I can be convinced that, for example, firefighters and police officers. Now, I do think there's been a lot of. There's a tricky thing. I think public sector unions are morally corrupt, and
here is why we have unions.
Okay.
You seeing that? Oh yeah, I gotta turn it back on. Oh yeah, there we go. Upton Sinclair wrote the Jungle. That was about the food industry and how processing. You worked 7-day weeks.
Oh no! Look, Jurgs, 1905. I'm with you on 1905. I'm talking about today. I'm saying have they outlasted their use?
And this is the point. This is the point I was making about my dad having lost his job in 1905 when you were fired because you were sick and you weren't able to to come into work, when working around food while you're
Right.
sick,
Not a
kind
good
of a
idea.
bad idea. But
Right.
we got to keep moving. You're fired. We'll get somebody else.
I get it. 1905
Is what a union's supposed to do.
Yeah, I get that. But like that we have all these other regulations that say you can't do that, period. Whether you're union, like in a union or not, you can't fire someone because they're sick. In any job, you would get sued for that.
Right.
And so my point is, we have all these got all these sort of worker protections built into law at the federal level. I just think unions have outlasted their use, and all they're really doing now is jacking up the cost of American goods. That's essentially what we're saying. We're saying we'd rather have slow ports, which, by the way, if we had faster ports, maybe we'd have more jobs filled in the manufacturing. So everything has trade-offs, is my point. And politicians pretend that there are not trade-offs, that everyone can win all the time. It's not true. If we give dock workers a 77% raise, or I guess we gave them a 66% raise, and guarantee their jobs can't be replaced by automation, computer, any of that kind of stuff, and so therefore our docks are still going to be really slow. We're still going to be really slow at importing and exporting. We're still going to have backlogs. The cost of everything that comes on and off those ships is going to cost more. Everyone's passing that down to consumers, and we don't get jobs from the manufacturers.
Here's a perfect
so that's the trade-off.
Here's a perfect example of that. A couple of weeks ago, I was on a show. I was a guest on a show in Vegas. A show very much like this. Brian Shapiro at it's not W. It's out there. It's K something. It's K ship. That's it.
It's a K or W, one of the two.
Yep. No, it's because it's west of the Mississippi, so it's KSHP, 1400 AM. Plus, he's like us. He's got his social media stuff and all that. I was a guest on his show. One of the other guests was this no-name presidential candidate who was, like I said, no-name presidential candidate. Wants the minimum wage, flat across the board, to be $30 an hour.
Like whether you're the janitor or whatever.
Yeah, it doesn't matter the job.
Yeah.
And he's like, so you're telling me, and this was the example Brian used in his show, you're telling me some high school kid flipping burgers at McDonald's is, worthy of $30 an hour for just a burger that's really essentially already made. It's not like he's a sous chef that's using their own spices and physically weighing each burger for that to be the right amount of meat. This stuff's done at a factory somewhere else. They throw it on. It's timed.
Yep.
And we're done.
Yeah, and when people don't think that that's going to raise the cost of that burger, they're crazy.
Yeah. Our board operator pointed out, and I've used them. I love the kiosks in fast food restaurants because your order is much more accurate. Go figure.
I actually hate them.
He's talking about McDonald's getting kiosks, and they've had them. It just depends on the store, the restaurant that you're at. Because workers are wanting $25 an hour, they have to cut. If they honor that, they have to cut back on the number of employees. So a lot of the orders are going to be done through, as you were talking about, automation. And that's
in California, they're just closing the restaurants. I mean, they did their $20 minimum wage, and essentially fast food restaurants are just closing. They're like, we can't pay employees $20 an hour and run this restaurant and make a profit unless we're charging $15 per combo meal. And no one wants to pay that, or $20 or what, and so people don't pay. I mean, I think the thing that drives me crazy about every economic thing is that everyone, and now the real problem is that I have is that now the right are these people too. It used to just be the left that were idiots on the economy. I mean, frankly, I feel like the left has been just out of their mind on a lot of the economic stuff for a long time because they think that supply and demand aren't the two most important factors in all economics, and they are. And now the right's pretending the same thing, and it drives me nuts that we can't just talk about the basics of if you raise
everybody
the price
wants to be for the people, and nobody wants to make decisions.
Well, and everyone wants to pay people a bunch of money, but then they don't see that, like, well, yeah, but then that same person you're paying $20 an hour has to pay $20 for a combo meal at a fast food restaurant, and so that money means nothing anymore.
Right, 100%. So I got to take a break. When we come back, we're going to also talk about the debate. Was it this week? It was Tuesday, right?
Tuesday. It seems like weeks ago because it's a VP debate.
Sleeping in the back of a minivan does that to you. Just another night sleeping on a dog bed. When we come back, we're going to talk about who won the VP debate and why. And of course, there's two answers, as well as the Brooks Brothers revolt. No, the Brooks Brothers. Riots. That's it. Not revolt. The Brooks Brothers riots. And of course, everybody's touring disaster areas. That's the thing to do. WTAN, WDCF, WDJY, Yerg's Radio, and the rest of the Mastiff Media Network. This is Up the Middle. We'll be back after this.
Does your house smell nasty? Do you want to freshen it up a little bit? Go to aromabypeter.com. Check out all of Peter's candles. It's what we burn here in Studio Yerg's. I'm burning right now leather scented candle. That's right, leather scented. So go to aromabypeter.com/Yerg's and check out his candles today.
I'm Jane Stahl, retired English teacher, and with my BFF, Susan Bebeck, we manage Studio B Fine Art Gallery in Boyertown, Pennsylvania. We showcase the art of hundreds of local artists, publish books of the poetry, prose, and art of local writers, offer classes, art parties, workshops, discussion groups, cater dinners. We've even hosted a wedding. And we're here to be the go-to place for friendship, learning, and fun in our community. Virtual tours of our exhibits are available right here on Yerg's Radio. Let us introduce you to some amazing art and artists.
Check out Jane Stahl and everyone at Studio B in Boyertown, Pennsylvania. Please visit our YouTube channel, Talk TV 24. How's your website doing? I'll tell you how mine's doing. It's awesome. Yergs.com is gotta be the best website for anybody in podcasting or any sort of broadcast solo journalist like me. How did I get that? Limit Break Digital. Limit Break Digital did my website with Yergs.com. They did YergerGroup.com. They take care of my marketing, my branding, and help me get the message out to you. Go to limitbreakdigital.com/Yergs for 10% off your next project. That's a $3,000 site, Yergs.com. And you can get 10% off that by just going to limitbreakdigital.com/Yergs today. Talk to Jay. That's my guy. We all got a guy, and Jay's mine. limitbreakdigital.com. Hey gang, it's Yergs. Right now, our country is about to embark on yet another controversial presidential election. I have an actual question, legitimate question, as a political scientist and historian by education. If you are a Trump supporter, I want to hear from you. I want to know what your appeal to Donald Trump is at this time. Please email me news, N-E-W-Z, at yergs.com. News, N-E-W-Z, at yergz.com. Thanks. Participants must be willing to provide their contact information, answer a series of questions, and then have their first name broadcast over the radio and social media relevant to Up the Middle.
I got to pull this out. Hold on. During the breaks, I tune in to all of our affiliates and make sure everything's going well. And we've been getting this with America One Radio. I don't think I have the same schedule that they do because we're not on there. Whatever. They're lost. I mean, we're being heard by 26,000 plus people in Atlanta, and management at WTAN said, we should be able to get an easy 30 throughout the four stations that they've got right out of the bat. So we'll see. But yeah, so one other thing, I got to try to do this with some music in the background, which is better. How you looking? You get that gym body going? You working out yet, Blake?
No,
No.
not as much as I should though.
What are you doing?
Rowing machine.
Okay. One of my best friends was in crew at St. Joseph's in Philadelphia.
I need to do it more. I'm bad about. I never motivated to do it. I need someone to.
I used to wake up every day and go for a walk out to the water, 4 blocks out to the water and back. It's a 1.5 mile round trip. And it wasn't just that. I mean, I was, total meathead. Supplements, diet, protein shakes.
You were also in charge of, protecting some important people. So I think it was probably important for you to be in shape and to whoop some
100%.
ass, right? It's part of the job description.
100%. Yep.
There's no part of
So
my job description
then-
where I have to whoop ass.
Yeah. Well, it's been music, but depression hit in for me, and the anxiety and PTSD, and I just totally lost it. And I haven't been to this place since, and it's not the place's fault. I really miss it, and that is what used to be Monster Mouse Fitness in Bayonet Point, Pasco County. Now it's Momentum Fitness and Wellness Center. I got it right this time. 2 weeks ago, I screwed it up badly. Momentum Fitness and Wellness Center on US 19 in Pasco. New weights, upgraded weights, new other, features. I don't even know what that's called. When a gym has like a nice locker room and sauna, spa, swimming pool, all the other things you can do at the gym, they're doing this thing that's all the rage right now called the cold plunge. I don't know why you would drop in ice cold water. I mean, I'm handicapped enough. I don't need to make anything else smaller. There's another innuendo for you. But that's apparently I like the heat. I always like the heat. And I used to use a sauna, which they now have, for like 5 or 10 minutes before every workout. It's like the microwave for your muscle. And now they got it. They've got a bigger outdoor training area for both weights and CrossFit. And I just messaged Anthony before we went live today. This, by the way, is turning into being a 2-minute commercial. So get your live commercials at mastiff.media. The music's over. That's a 3-minute song.
Well, they got a lot of ad
Music's
time.
over. Money's worth. Getting your money's worth. Go to, I almost said Monster Mouse Fitness again. Go to Momentum Momentum Fitness and Wellness in Bayonet Point. It's Hudson, Bayonet Point, Jasmine Estates. There's a bunch of neighborhoods in Pasco County that merge right in that area. But it's right on 19. You can't miss it. It's right by the U-Haul Center and the Arby's. And yeah, you will find it, and you got to find it if you want to get or keep that Hernando Beach body. Momentum. Develop a momentum. And momentum. I don't know what his actual slogan is.
Do they have a Oklahoma City location? Because maybe that's what I need.
No, that's the bummer of syndication. You at least you get to hear about it for when you come visit me.
That's true. Yeah. Now I know where I'm going to work out.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, you know what? And there was another one I was supposed to do live today too, but she never gave me the info.
Well, guess we're not doing that.
Oh, it's called What's Up Pasco. It's like a nonprofit, and it's where I was going to be doing the show from earlier this week if we went earlier. But why am I still showing this, by the way? I need a producer,
Don't we all?
but we're still showing KSHP AM 1400 in Vegas, which is actually somebody else we're in talks with. We might be adding them to the network by the end of this year. So Momentum, Fitness and Wellness Center, Bayonet Point, Jasmine Estates. They don't have more than one location, although they should, and they probably will someday. It's just that, like I said, Bayonet Point, Hudson, Jasmine Estates, all these different neighborhoods, Port Richey, come together like this one spot. And that spot is Momentum, Fitness and Wellness. All right, so are we done talking about hurricanes and strikes? And
Works for me. Yeah.
did we hear everything?
Wherever you want to go.
Are you hearing like a buzzing in the background from my mic?
I hear a weird ding and some other sort of static sound, but I don't know if that's on my end or yours.
So, with this whole life that is happening right now, I moved the computer to the garage, which is now air conditioned. Later, it's going to be air conditioned with a second machine. And I go to get coffee at like 9:45, take the kids for a pup cup at Dunkin'. I come back, wake up the computer, and there's this nasty rattling. One of the 7 fans. We got like 2 minutes left, so we got to start saying our goodbyes too for some of our networks.
Oh, yeah.
Thanks, Ed. One of our 7 fans on this computer is now rattling. Like it's like a belt that's loose or something.
Always fun to when you're trying to
So-
do audio and there's some stupid thing making noises. My light actually makes a lot of noise. I need to maybe get another one, but
Yeah. So check out, let's do some plugs here for the first hour. Let everybody know where they can get us. God, I get all these alarms going off
yeah,
now
that's
too
what
on
I'm
my
hearing
desktop.
too, I think,
And I usually do this show with 4 monitors in the actual studio in my house. I've got 1 monitor that I was able to put on this high top table, which is wobbling, and I'm worried it's going to fall over with about $2,000 worth of equipment
don't do
sitting
that.
on it.
That's bad. That's bad for stuff.
I'm probably going to make a trip to Walmart just to get a table. But where can we get? First of all, this is actually a 5-day-a-week show. Every weekday at 11 a.m. Go to www.mastiff.media. And you can get the show notes from everything that we've done. Or you can get the list of all of the places where you can get us, not just the TAN network. And don't get me wrong, we're happy and grateful to have WTAN with us. But we're more than just the Fridays here at WTAN. We're also going to be picking up right now with WWPR. You can switch over to that in the Bradenton. We're going to be losing Atlanta second, and just go to yergsradio.com. Blake at thehomelessconservative.com is his email. You can reach out to him, tell him what a knucklehead he is. And Matt, same thing there. It's covered at Matt at dailycryptonews.net and info@deemerforcongress.com. We'll see you guys next week here on WTAN and WDCF. We're going to continue the party at Yergz, YERGZ, radio.com, and we'll see you again there. See you in a couple of minutes, gang.
From the Sunshine State,
WTAN,
this is
Clearwater.
Tampa Bay's
WDCF, Dade City.
All right. Welcoming WWPR 1490 for hour number 2. Yeah, there we go. I like our music.
It's in my head very often.
Do you? Are we on there? I'm listening to it. it's actually working. Oh, I think we are. We are. 1490 WWPR. Bradenton, Tampa Bay. You don't get to hear what I just heard. Some big James Earl Jones sounding guy.
No, I did not.
Are you ready for this? It's this big James Earl Jones sounding guy. Right at the top of the hour. Goes. I gotta see if I can mimic it here. I actually can build my bass up. Let me see if I can do that. Check 1 2. Check 1 2. Check 1 2. There we go. That's a little bit. So this is what I hear.
I hear that fan.
Check. No,
I heard
are you
fan
hearing the
yet.
fan? Oh,
It's fine
I
though.
gotta
I
get
mean,
him
like
to fix
it'll
that.
work. People understand you're dealing with post hurricane. It's kind of a miracle you're on
Yeah.
there anyway. I don't think anyone's going to judge the fan noise, or if you do, don't judge Jurgs on the fan noise. Come on, he like duct taped this thing
Yeah.
together
well,
to get on the air today, because his house is underwater
literally.
for the last week. So
So, like I told you, I got up my iPhone plugged in and I checked the different network stations that part of our network. And as we're bringing on 1490, I hear this James Earl Jones sounding guy.
was it the ghost of James Earl Jones?
Following program. Yeah. The following program contains obscene. Was it obscene?
Oh,
I
are they
forget what
now
he said.
warning people about us because you and Matt
Yeah.
can't stop cursing?
Yeah.
For the record, I have not. Here, I think that's probably me growing up Baptist. I'm very good at being able to turn that cursing part off for a different
think-
crowd.
My thing was when I was in the Secret Service, I was just around so much of government people, Hillary Clinton, the Obamas.
What is the language
No.
like behind closed doors with these kind of people? Is it let fly?
Oh, in certain situations, it's
Not in front of the cameras, right? But
It-
probably yeah.
No, of course not. I've seen them all be going off, and as soon as that door opens, whether it's the car or from one room to the other, it's smiley, happy people.
it's like a switch. Yeah. Because that. I mean, that happens in every business. I don't think that's exclusive to politics or something. I was in a band, so
But for me, being in that atmosphere, I had my coffee sitting here and it's condensing, and now because this table is tilting, now my crotch is wet.
yeah, that's nice. That's a nice feeling.
For that, that's what I thought. Wow, am I that old already? I can't even feel it. That I've lost control. But no, it's just the table, just Duncan. But for me, for being around all these people so frequently, I noticed one day I don't spit anymore. I don't chew gum. I wasn't swearing. I was all professional and clean cut, good boy. Like, I gotta get out of here. Fire me. Let me retire. Let me be me. And now I got long hair. I'm sitting in a sweaty garage, which supposedly has air conditioning, and shirtless. Just like
It's still hot as crap here.
That's not why.
The high is still 90 today.
Yeah, that's
It's
not why we
October.
need no camera for me. For those of us just joining, this is the first day back from a forced vacation, courtesy of Ms. Helene. We are back today live for Up the Middle. Matt is traveling. He's unable to join us. He tried. He gave us a good college effort an hour ago, but the rolling hills of Pennsylvania did
They
him
did
in.
not like the cell
So,
phone coverage there. Yeah.
We'll wait till next week. So, We talked
Well,
about
I
some
really feel
lead
like we got a
stories in
ton
the
to talk
first
about.
hour.
We also didn't talk about, like, because we didn't do last week, we didn't talk about Eric Adams in New York. We haven't talked. We still haven't talked about the debate, which I'm sure we'll talk briefly about that. I don't know that it's super consequential, but yeah. So there's been a lot. I mean, the news has been kind of. In fact, I mean, so often I go, "Oh yeah, I totally forgot that other thing happened," because so many other things have happened. It's just it shows no signs of slowing down.
Yeah, I'll move you out from behind the marijuana leaf in the pot of coffee. There's there we go. There's something we usually do, I guess, kind of sort of in the first hour. We haven't been doing it on the Fridays because you guys have like no idea what this is and who Pierre Robert is. But Pierre Robert is a Philadelphia DJ that I've listened to literally my whole life. He's now a 69-year-old hippie, has been a disc jockey in Philadelphia at WMMR. WMMR 93.3, a rock station, 1981. Were you even born then?
Yeah, 83. So I'm a couple years removed from that.
Yeah. So he was there before you were even born. And he does this thing where when he finds somebody in his listening audience who he calls a good citizen, he gives him a toast of coffee, huge coffee drinker. He's on like from 10 to 3 in the morning to afternoon. He does a toast of the morning sauce in their direction, meaning he's cheersing somebody. And that for me today is one of my coaches does a show 2 days a week that I highly recommend if you're any sort of content creator, not just podcasting, even though the show is called Podcast Pros. It's also for radio people. It's also for YouTubers, even though he's not a big video guy. And you just learn how to manage your social media and learn how to do so many things in the creative space. And he's taught me so much. So this is to John J. Wiley, also a radio personality, also in law enforcement, medically retired earlier in his career as a new sergeant because of an injury. And soon after that, got into radio, went to school for radio, as an adult, went to night school for radio, and left that after about 20 or so years, and now is doing his own thing on the LET Network. It stands for Law Enforcement Talk Network. Google that. You'll find him. John J. Wiley, today's coffee, today's morning sauce is toasted in your direction. Thanks for teaching me so much, Uncle John. It says Uncle John. He's also got this big bushy mustache that we're making T-shirts from. And I forget what it's. There's going to be like some suggestive, like give it a comb or something like that. Some sort of like rub the belly kind of thing for the mustache. And it's just going to be this T-shirt with a handlebar mustache on it. It's going to be his logo or something close to it. So thanks, Uncle John. Toast of the morning sauce in your direction for Pierre's Pot for Friday, October 4th. So Eric Adams. Here's the thing about Trump. Eric Adams, Menendez,
No,
the Democrat in
yeah,
Jersey,
no. Is it Menendez? Bob? Yeah, I think that's right.
Bob Men something.
I think it is Bob
What are you
Menendez.
thinking?
Sure.
What are you thinking? Menendez was indicted back in 17 or 18 for the same thing.
It was 15,
He
I think.
beats that. Now,
Yeah.
if your wife is making dinner and she steps out to go to the ladies' room or something real fast, and you step in and just take a small spoon of the mashed potatoes and taste it without telling anybody, or you get an extra treat, you reach your literally hand in the cookie jar, and you get away with it. Are you going to try that again when she comes back into the kitchen? Or are you going to say, you know what? She's going to bitch at me. Keep the peace. Wait till dinner. Have the cookie after as a snack. This guy gets indicted for corruption as a United States senator. and he
And
beats
does it again.
And then he goes back and says, well, you know what? Screw it. I must be good at this.
Yeah.
And then
It-
you mentioned Eric Adams.
Yeah.
What are they thinking?
From
when-
foreign governments, by the way, Yergs. This is not even this is not bribery is bad. I don't like bribery. One thing that a lot of people don't talk about is that, which I think is a thing that's lost on. I think it's lost on the argument about like what the role of government is now that we're not in the Cold War anymore. People forget that like these communist countries, these dictatorships, they run on bribes. So it is less common here because we have accountability, we have judges and juries, we have all this kind of stuff. And it also basically those kind of other, Russia, for example, and North Korea and Iran to a degree. I think what you see is that there's an ineptitude that comes with the corruption because no one's ever willing to fess up that they mess up because they'll get killed in like Russia, for example, for doing so. So no one ever fesses up that they mess up. And they also just know that they've got this bottleneck where it's like, you need me to grease the wheels, so give me money. It's not how it's supposed to work here. But, and by the way, that's domestic mostly is what we're talking about, like domestic corruption. If you want to get a building built, you got to pay the right people and stuff. We're not supposed to have that here. And for the most part, all of these scandals that we're talking about where there's bribery involved, it's not some private company bribing some judge. It's a foreign government. It's Turkey with Eric Adams. It was Egypt with Bob Menendez. It's China with to some degrees. I'm not totally convinced that there's kind of some shady stuff even when you get past someone being in office. We've had some people that I think should be charged. I think Hunter Biden should have been charged with not being registered as a foreign agent. I think that there's
what's his nuts, Jared Kushner.
And Jared Kushner, could be
East.
close too.
Oh,
Now the upside of Kushner is that most of this happened after Trump left office. So
it didn't.
Well, but I'm talking about the investments from the Saudis. Are you talking about something else? The investment from the Saudis. Well, I don't think that counts.
He went overseas, documented because it was on government dime. It was a government trip where he
but he didn't start that company until after he left. I don't think. I could be wrong about that.
Well, no kidding.
Well, I know, but my point, I agree. It doesn't look good, but it's not the same thing. It's not the same as needing to be registered as a foreign agent.
I never, when I used the IntelliBand on my voice meter on my soundboard to make myself darker like James Earl Jones, I never changed it back. So now I'm like peaking and popping out and like, why am I sounding so bad?
You sound fine to me.
So Jared Kushner made 3 trips while Trump was a lame duck, but still, why are you making trips while he's a lame duck if you can't get anything done anyway?
Well,
I've sent a lot of people to jail for less than that.
It's connections. I mean, and then my point is this kind of stuff is happening with elected officials and generally foreign governments. And I think we should be much more concerned about this. I think we should be taking it even more seriously than we are. It's crazy to me that Eric Adams is like, nope, I'm going to stick it out. I'm not going to resign.
Yeah. And here's, if you know what you're getting yourself into, maybe even a little bit, or even if you're at least savvy enough to say, you know what, my political enemies might run with this a little harder than what I wish. Like I've been teaching on Up the Middle as the podcast, and same here with the radio show. You no longer have to be able to spell Google to be able to use it.
Right.
While you were talking, here's what I found. Without even clicking. Oh, I do got to click actually to bring that up. Without even clicking on the actual link, I did legal definition of treason. The legal definition of treason in the United States is defined in Article 3, Section 3, Clause 1 of the Constitution. Levying war, adhering to the enemies of the United States, giving aid and comfort to the enemies of the United States. That's very broad.
Yeah. And I think we, especially with our elected officials,
testimony from 2 witnesses to the same overt act or confession in open court. Now, let's
I think
talk
that
about
bar is a little higher now, isn't it?
well, for somebody like Bob Menendez, who is a senator and who's got more gold bars stuffed away somewhere,
And sits on the Foreign Relations Committee, right? I mean, that's
hello.
And so then Eric Adams is doing the same thing to basically grease the wheels for a Turkey embassy in New York, some building permits, kind of cutting some red tape. And that's the other thing. It's so stupid. It's like for an embassy, it's not even for, I don't know. To me, it just really, these keep coming out more and more. And I think we are foolish to think that, I'm not saying, but look at the direction it goes. No one's been accused of taking money from England or Australia or our allies.
Yeah.
It's Egypt. It's not that Egypt's our enemy, but like Turkey certainly is ran by a brutal dictator.
We're going to talk about Turkey in a second,
actually,
and how they could very well be our enemy.
Oh, I mean, I think that they qualify for sure. We're not worried about them, but yeah.
If we don't go with the treason, also in that couple of minutes tops, we're only 17 minutes into this hour, and we were rambling about other stuff, about like our language and so on for how long. I also Googled, and I think that's what's on the screen now. I also Googled public corruption. The abuse of public officials' position or breach of public trust for personal gain. Gold bullion
is personal gains. Hundreds of $1,000s worth of hotels and trips and stuff is personal gain.
Yeah, exactly. Justice Thomas.
Now, I do think some of that is a little trickier. The Supreme Court stuff is different. It is. Why? Because there was a direct quid pro quo with the Eric Adams stuff. It was, we will give you this stuff. You cut some red tape for us. There's no indication whatsoever that Thomas has done anything ever that affected any sort of outcome of any case. There's been no thread there that I've ever seen.
The additional concurring opinion where he just flat out said that he doesn't think special prosecutors are constitutional. And the next week, Eileen Cannon dropped the charge through the case out of court.
No, but I don't think that. I think that is signaling what his. No, but I don't think that's correct. He didn't take any money from Eileen Cannon. That's ridiculous. And he didn't take any money from anyone that cares about that. I think he's right. I think special counsels are unconstitutional. Under what jurisdiction? We have three branches of government. Where do special prosecute? And by the way, that's not what the Supreme Court said. And that's not what Eileen Cannon said either. She said Jack Smith specifically is not constitutionally allowed to bring this unless he is under the Justice Department, under the executive branch. So all they have to do is say that Jack Smith is officially part of the Justice Department. It's not a independent counsel. And I think it's then constitutional. The problem is the Justice Department doesn't want to do that because then they have to show that Joe Biden is prosecuting his opponent, or was when they were in the same race together. So it's a clerical thing.
Or Donald Trump won't investigate himself.
Right. But I mean, exactly. Same situation there. But my problem is I actually do not disagree. I think when most people drill down to what Thomas was saying, they don't disagree with it. Is that if we have three branches of government and everything is
nothing to do with that decision.
But it does.
It didn't have to be in any part of that decision, especially when you don't usually have or ever have a second concurring opinion.
We do all the time. We do all the time. We have. Yes, it happens very often. My point is, there's nothing that's shady about what happened there. Like, I think Eileen Cannon is correct about that ruling. Jack Smith was not legally. I don't think an independent counsel can do that. I do think there are constitutional problems because everyone has to be accountable to one of the branches of government, and an independent counsel is creating a fourth branch of government. Essentially, you're saying this guy is outside of the law of Congress, the judges, and the Justice Department. And so the executive branch, I don't think that I think that is extra constitutional and we shouldn't allow them. I think they need to be under the Justice Department. And if it is a current sitting president, then it needs to go to Congress. But like you can only have, I think, prosecutions or investigations under either the executive branch or Congress. but you cannot have something that's independent of both of those bodies because the Constitution is not set up to allow that. Because who are they accountable to?
Where does somebody like Jack Smith get his money from?
Jackson, but the problem is it's not just the money, it's the fact that you have to structure it where he is accountable to his bosses in the justice.
Where does he get his money from? Who
When you
pays
say, I know it doesn't matter. That's my point is, though, it's not that who pays them. It's who is responsible for checking that person's authority. No, it's not, because the Justice Department was trying to keep an arm's length from that and saying, we don't have anything to do with it. You can't, constitutionally, we can't do that. No, they can't do that constitutionally, is my point. Who is in charge?
Morally? Have all of our morals gone
I don't care about morals. I don't care about morals. I do not care about morals. I care about the Constitution.
Like a true MAGA Republican.
No, listen, I'm not a MAGA Republican. I don't like Trump. My point is, all they had to do was say that Jack Smith is under Merrick Garland, and he is a special prosecutor, not an independent prosecutor. That's all they had to do to circumvent it. Or swap him with someone in the Justice Department that takes over the case. Those are the two options. It wasn't when Trump tried to say they threw out the case. That is not true. That is not what happened. The case did not get thrown out
this week.
They said Jack Smith cannot bring this as an independent. He has to be under the executive branch. And I agree with that. I think that is actually the smarter legal people that I know, that I read, because I'm not a lawyer, obviously, but say, like, this has been a problem that a lot of people have been talking about in kind of legal world for decades, is that an independent prosecutor. Now, if you want to do an independent investigation, that's a little bit different, because there's not any they're potentially just taking that to the Justice Department or to Congress to say, here's what we have found, and you all can take an action on it. But an independent prosecutor, I've been reading legal people for 20 years that have said, we don't think that these are constitutional, because who are they accountable to? And everyone has to be accountable to one of the three branches of government, including between the branches. So Congress can check judges as well as the president, the executive branch. The executive branch can obviously veto congressional laws. The judge, obviously, the Supreme Court and all the courts can strike down laws that Congress writes that they think are unconstitutional, or executive orders. So there's supposed to be this thing. An independent prosecutor is not answerable to any of those people. And so I agree, legally they shouldn't exist. And this was not a problem of Trump is guilty of the things I think he's been accused of by the Justice Department, specifically in the election cases and the documents cases. I just don't think that it works where Biden was trying to have it the best of both worlds. He's trying to say, I'm not prosecuting my political enemy. My Justice Department is not prosecuting my political enemy. It's this separate person we hired to do it. And to me, that's the fuzzy line you can't do. Because here's the question that I would ask you, Jurgs. Would you want Trump to be able to do the exact same thing to his political enemies? And I think the answer would be no, right?
Well, and that's,
you need accountability
there in the first place.
But someone's got to answer it. And by the way, when we talk about the executive branch here, everything goes up to one person. The president is in charge of the entire executive branch.
I'm glad you
so
said
there's
that.
no other branch of government there's no other government that does that, because Congress is obviously a group of people. Even the courts are groups of people in various places and chains of, you go from circuit courts to Supreme Court and stuff like that. The executive branch is one person. So Joe Biden did not want to look like he was prosecuting his political enemy. And I understand that. But to me, there would have been, you got to own it one way or the other. So to me, the moral thing to do would be like, I don't care if it looks bad politically. It's the right thing to do if that's what you feel. Although I do think the Justice Department has been not great on all this stuff, because to me, you can see the difference between the Hunter Biden stuff and the Trump stuff in both the way they did it, the speed they did it, when they were trying to do it, as far as it being convenient for stuff. I don't think the Justice Department has been behaving completely well. And I think most of that comes from Biden. I don't blame Merrick Garland necessarily, because I think his boss was making his job very hard to do.
Yeah, but I mean, look at the situation. He's trying not to interfere with an investigation into his own son. And then he's also trying not to interfere with an investigation, like you said, into his political enemy.
Yeah, but it's pretty clear he was interfering in the one with Hunter. I mean, to meet with a witness the day before the witness is supposed to be in court is wrong. And even if it just looks wrong, you shouldn't have done it.
Yeah.
You know, and the point is, there's clearly a thumb on the scale, because with the Hunter stuff, they tried to do this plea deal that blew up because the judge was like, "This is ridiculous. This is absolving him of all future crimes." Like, are you agreeing with that? But they had to kind of like dial it back and go, "You're right. We don't have a deal here," and that's why he's now getting prosecuted for. I mean, he took the plea deal finally, I guess, on the right, or no, he hasn't yet on the tax stuff. I can't remember.
Yeah.
The point is, it's pretty clear that Hunter was not getting prosecuted for things that anyone else would have. He also ended up getting some prosecutions that no one else would have, like the gun charge. So there's this weird thing, and Trump's getting some of the same stuff. I wish, what I really don't like about it is that it politicized the Justice Department. It's politicized the courts, and I don't think that's fair, because I don't think every action.
How do you, as a sitting president, rightfully investigate a political opponent?
I would have done it.
A wannabe dictator.
I would have done it before that guy chose to run for re-election again. I would have done it as fast as possible.
He chose to run for re-election back in November of 2020.
No, he didn't. I mean, I don't. Maybe, 100%. But it wasn't public. My point is, I would have done. We didn't learn anything in 2.5 years before they brought most of those charges. Really, we didn't.
That gets to my point. With why are we doing this stuff in the first place? Bob Menendez.
Well, we should have done it. My problem is we should have done it in 2021.
No. I don't mean we, the good guys, the justice. I mean we, the bad guys. Know, today you're going to get caught. Stormy Daniels was from almost 20 years ago, and it still came out.
Yeah, well, I mean,
Eugene Carroll.
It's because people are morally corrupt. People are morally corrupt. And like, my point is, so is Biden. And so is Biden. And that's the problem, is that we don't care enough about the morals of our side anymore. No one wants to hold accountable their side for their bad behavior. And that's a problem. That we excuse the behavior on our side. We want the full extent of punishment for the other side, even if they're the exact same thing. And you're right. The truth is, there's a lot of parity here. There are Republican senators. There are Republican mayors, I'm sure, that would go down for a similar thing. This is not exclusive to Democrats, and I'm not pretending that Democrats are the only ones corrupt. I mean, they happen to be the ones that have made the news lately with some of these foreign stuff with Eric Adams and Bob Menendez specifically. But it's not always the case. And the problem is that I think everyone thought in 2021, Republicans, the senators, I mean, let's talk about the real thing here. It's like 12 Republicans in the Senate could have gotten rid of Donald Trump for us for forever if they just had the guts to do the right thing at the right time. They didn't. They didn't impeach or remove him. I think that's a grave mistake. They thought he would just disappear. They thought no one would have an appetite for Trump later. And I think the Biden administration felt the same way in 2021. I think they thought after January 6th, there's no way this guy's running again. Everyone thought that in February of 2021. Everyone thought there was no chance he was going to have a political career after that. But they also wouldn't speak out about how terrible what had happened was. And I think that's the problem, is that what we're now in a situation is that they waited almost 3 years to charge him with stuff. Coincidentally, I don't know if I buy in all of the lawfare stuff. It's just awfully weird that all the charges and all the timing of all the court stuff happened to be when Donald Trump was going to need to be on the campaign trail. It looks bad if nothing else. And my point is, I wish we had politicians that even thought about not just, is this illegal or is this wrong? Is it morally? What is the optics of this? I wish someone would sit for 1 second.
Bringing charges against a criminal or doing it in the first place?
Doing it coinciding with him announcing that he's going to run and trying to time up all the court cases where he'd be tied up in court. Because even between states and stuff, it almost seemed like there's coordination involved. It's like, well, in March, he's going to be at this court. And he's done illegal things.
Because they want him there. And I've said this before here and elsewhere. Federal, the saying is, don't make a federal case about it. Don't make it a big deal if it's not. Well, a federal case is a big deal by definition. And when done right, most of them aren't done in 10 minutes. It takes a while to do that.
You're
And-
telling me they could have sped it up for the most important, they're claiming is the most important case ever, for a former
Absolutely
president?
not. Because
I just don't believe
there
it.
are so many arms to this. And I'm going to show you another one right here.
I just don't. There's no information that we get. Like everything in Jack Smith thing that got not announced, but released. All of it's like quotes from people that were there on January 6th and in the lead up to from the election on. I just don't buy that took 3 years to figure out, to do interviews with these people and figure out what was happening. They could have sped it along.
I know how long it takes me to get interviews with 3 people, let alone 3,000.
Okay, maybe, but
Another thing that came out from 2016.
But your exit looks political, and it's what one. I know, but it might.
This is before he's even president.
Why no? But it might be the reason he becomes president again, Jurg. So like all this stuff was literally was the opposite of kryptonite. It's the red sun for him. That's why he won the primary, at least partially. The second these indictments came out, especially the New York one, which was so bad and so egregious.
I don't think it was bad. And if
you're like the only person that doesn't think the New York one was a sham.
No,
I read liberals. I read Republicans
because talking heads like you and me tell them to think it's a sham. But
it is a sham. He upgraded a bunch of misdemeanors outside of the.
Ask those same people who say it's a sham if they've read the indictment and just use that moment to clean the wax out of your ears because you don't need to hear anyway. They got nothing to say.
Well, I mean, I can tell you why it's a sham a million times. It's misdemeanor charges. They upgraded to felonies by not naming another crime.
Oversight Democrats launched investigation into allegations Trump DOJ covered up, and here's again perhaps a need for individual and separate special counsel. Allegations that Trump DOJ covered up $10 million cash bribe to Trump from the Egyptian government, and it's not just the president; it's the government. There was
I don't think that's independent. That's Congress. Congress is the people that investigate that. Then they are in charge of checking the executive branch. Doesn't need to be an investigation. And I'm like, these are things I'm fine with. Like, let's investigate it. Let's figure it out.
The Department of Justice, that's the CIA. The CIA is the one that goes to other countries and breaks the law, not the Department of Justice. Yet here they are.
CIA is not under the Department of Justice, are they? They're under.
No,
they're under
in the executive branch. No.
Yeah, but they're under the Pentagon.
No. The CIA is in. No, they're not part of. That's the Defense Intelligence Agency, the DIA. The CIA. This is why the the intelligence czar or the whatever the now new head of intelligence for the United States is a redundant position. That is the DCI, Director of Central Intelligence.
Right, but they're independent of the Justice Department.
Correct.
CIA has nothing to do with the Justice Department.
Will you let me finish something?
Okay, but that's where I'm right about that, right? They're not connected. Or is it under it? I thought it was independent.
Stop. I'm going to mute you. And Matt's listening. You know damn well he's listening.
You're cutting out, so I couldn't hear that you were talking. I'm sorry, you were cutting out.
Oh, am I really?
Oh. Well, it sounded like digital cutout. I couldn't hear that you were talking. Sorry.
It could be because of this, the fan that's running in the background. Anyway, the CIA is an independent cabinet member within the executive branch. That cabinet position is the Director of Central Intelligence. They're not under the Pentagon. They're essentially neighbors to the Pentagon because Langley is a little bit farther out the George Washington Parkway than what the Pentagon is, which is right outside D.C. Langley is in Langley and McLean and further west on the way to Dulles. But it's the CIA that is essentially the one that goes into other countries and breaks the law. The FBI is the ones that watches those countries as they come here and keeps them from breaking the law. Now back, and this is, as always, the link to what I'm showing now will be in the show notes. But so you read the whole rest of this on your own because we've got 25 minutes and I still got to do another break. But the story is 2016, Trump, 2016, he was running low on funds. And as you remember, things were still kind of tight with Hillary. And the campaign came to him. Actually, I think it was the Republican National Committee came to him and said, we need you to fund your campaign like you said you would. And he said no. Pretty much because he kind of already saw the writing on the wall, supposedly, possibly, that in 2016, he was not going to get elected. Then all of a sudden, he comes up with $10 million, which obviously, if you believe that he's actually a billionaire, he would have, comes up with $10 million that he loans to his campaign. So now they got to pay him back. And miraculously, $10 million appears from a campaign that had no money in the first place to pay back the $10 million loan to Donald Trump. At the same time, this lonely old bank manager in Cairo, Egypt, is going about his day when he is given a handwritten note. Have $10 million ready in US dollars, cash, tomorrow. And the next day, two or three, I forget what the number was, but the next day, 2 or 3 men in black suits, sunglasses, whole government look, come in, take this.
Is that in this report, though?
What's that?
Is that part in this report?
I don't know if that's this one, but that's what
what
you're
I'm
going
saying. Like, what I get sometimes I feel like we get a little bit down the rabbit hole of some like alleged things versus what was confirmed to happen.
This is proven. This is documented. This is proven by the bank manager. This is proven by other aspects of the Egyptian government, the CIA.
Is it in the congressional report?
I didn't. I just found this one today.
I'm just saying. I want to know. I'm actually curious because to me, until it's like confirmed by law enforcement in the United States. No, I mean I've seen some of this stuff, and I'm not saying it's beyond Trump to do.
The FBI had this. The FBI under Obama had this. And when Barr comes in, and whoever the director was with him, it was squashed. And
okay, but if they had 4 years to build their case,
they didn't have those 4 years to build the case because Barr squashed it. That's what I'm telling you.
I know, but like, why not pick it up immediately when it comes in? You don't think you can pick it up?
Was that this stuff happened in this Egyptian bank, and not only does the $10 million disappear, as well as the agents that took it out into a waiting van and scurried off, but within the next day, the bank account, which still had a couple $100,000 in it, closes, gone, to include the couple $100,000 that the bank got to keep. They're like, we don't want anything anymore. Goodbye. Yeah, you can keep it. We already got our 10 million, which, to be fair, was theirs. It was it was proven to be Egyptian intelligence did a black op and sent that money somewhere. And I don't remember it because, again, I wasn't planning on talking about this today. But we can bring it back next week, or I'll just write about it because I got to actually start a blog now too.
So my point is, why not have Congress should have like, that's my point, is that like there's always a check. There should always be a check on every government agency. If the FBI can do their job, Congress is supposed to call them out.
When this gets squashed by Trump's DOJ,
Barr,
who is in charge of Congress?
Well, Republicans were for the first 2 years, but not after 2018. So Democrats could have picked it up in 2018.
They at that point, they didn't know about it.
Well, you said the Justice Department knew about it in 2015. You're telling me no one in the FBI could go to some...
Stop interrupting me.
I just don't buy that everyone...
That's what I'm telling you. And that's the thing that you and Matt don't have. You don't see what I've lived.
No, I
I've seen
totally agree with
stuff
that.
like this get squashed.
I know it gets squashed, but my
The,
point
De-
is that
the Democrats knew that it was there in 2018. Yeah, but they also know that even with whatever wins they had, they don't have the power to go back into Trump's Justice Department and say, "Hey, we need to look at this."
I know, but they have the power to impeach and remove him. They have that
Not-
power, and they used it twice. So if you've got the evidence that he took $2 million from Egypt, impeach him for it. That's my point, is that I'm tired of the delay game,
and
because
that's what I
we should have.
think is-
There's nothing, all of these crimes Trump did, he did before Joe Biden took office. Every one of them except the documents, technically. So we had the evidence. We didn't need to charge him in 2023. We should have charged him in 2021,
Yeah,
2022 at the latest.
No, and that's
Okay.
just there's no way I can convince you of that.
I know, but
Oh,
like my point is, them doing it in
this
2023
deal,
got
I
Trump
don't
the
like-
nomination and will
There's
maybe
no
win him
way
the
that I
presidency.
can convince you of that, other than using the same appeal that I hate to use all the time, and that's ethos and that's expertise. But federal cases just don't go that fast. There are so many, and that's another reason why there's such a high conviction rate within the federal system, is because not only everybody thinks, oh, well, a U.S. attorney gets to pick and choose his or her cases. That's not the case. There are big cases that are brought that have to be looked at and tried eventually, if that's the case. But when they do that, it's because they've taken their time and have done it right. There are things that I'll bet you're going to see a bunch of mob convictions overturned. Why?
They didn't do their
Because the guy who literally wrote the book on RICO is being tried for RICO. Rudy Giuliani.
Yeah, but I mean that'll be and that. But you're right. That's like, it's part of the problem is that that's my point. You've got to be above board on all this stuff, and I just think that even if, let's say you're right, Yergs, and let's say that it really took 3 years after Trump left office to be able to like bring charges on this stuff, the documents thing is ridiculous. That could have happened earlier. It just could have. There's no reason it couldn't have happened earlier. That's the one where I go, there's no case to be made here. He has the documents, and they've been trying to get them from him for 9 months before they even go do the raid was a year and a half later. I'm getting timelines confused. The point is, at some point, let's just say that you're right, and all of this is just the normal pace for this kind of thing. It looks political when your guy that you're trying to prosecute says he's running for president, and you go, here's a bunch of charges on you, and they're going to line up to Super Tuesday, your first court dates. It looks political. And the New York one, frankly, I just like the majority of people that I read or look or talk to, no one thinks that's a serious case. And it's the first one that went, and it made Trump bulletproof to say all these other cases are ridiculous too. And that's not the case. The federal ones are legit. So is the other state one. I think the Georgia one's fairly legit. But again, Trump has the best enemies, because Fani Willis is going to screw up the Georgia one. That's probably never going to happen now, because her stupid personal mistakes are going to make it look like, again, she was going, and at least maybe that's unfair, but it's at least it looks bad. And we're going to get a Trump presidency again, possibly. I mean, it's a 50-50 coin flip at this point. And I think this is directly correlated to that.
The last time you, Matt and I were together, you had to go earlier in the show towards the end to go get your kid.
Yep.
It was right about now, about 1:15. And Matt and I sat and talked. Neither one of us really, and I've made a life of being impartial. And as a political scientist and historian, I don't have the PhD, doctor, or anything by my name.
I don't care.
My background.
I went to school for 2 years, sure, because I'm not judging you.
Yeah, that's my background. That's my education. That's my expertise.
Yeah.
I've made a life of being open-minded, impartial, doing my homework. I practice what I preach. I voted for W twice, Clinton twice before that. I'll go both ways. There's another one. What? Nothing for that one?
No, I snickered.
There's a smirk. Yeah. And I just don't think this one's going to be close. The big one, I forget who I was. I think it was a potential guest that I was screening to come on here. Actually, it might have been that guy we talked about in the first hour, Brian Shapiro from KSHP out in Vegas. Somebody. We were sitting and talking about the likelihood and is this going to happen and that going to happen. And I said, when I first moved here to Tampa, as we know, I'm not in Tampa, which is more liberal or progressive or whatever you want to call it. I'm out in the sticks. I'm out in the hood, the Trump hood. And when I first moved here in 2021, almost a full year after the 2020 election, I still saw plenty of Trump and DeSantis signs all over the place. Keep Florida free was DeSantis' thing. And of course, make America great again.
Right.
And when I say that I saw signs, I don't mean like the 18-inch by 24-inch yard sign that I've got for a Republican candidate local here right now in my front yard. I'm talking about 8 by 12 feet signs that
Yeah,
are
they go big.
inside of a building.
They think it counts towards more voting. They think that if they put a bigger sign, their support matters more than someone that doesn't have a sign.
I remember actually being taught that in junior high school. I ran for student government secretary. And my nickname growing up as a kid was Rusty. And my campaign slogan was, Rusty will keep the files from getting dusty. And the teacher that led the student council and oversaw the election commissioner of sorts said the more posters you get throughout the hallway, the more likely you are to win. And so I had stuff all over the place over like men's, and they created rules because of me, because I was smart enough to put these posters where you're going to look, like over boys or girls signs on the doors to the locker rooms and the bathrooms or wherever. And it didn't work. I became a spoiler, though. I think Sue Rath spent the rest of her days hating me because she lost to Becky Hess.
Oh, yeah. So you were the third party spoiler.
Oh, yeah. I was the fourth party spoiler.
Fourth party spoiler, even better.
Third.
You were Jill Stein.
Oh, yeah. They didn't even know who I was. Ninth grader.
Spoiler,
For who? Ninth graders going to be voting for who now? So, yeah. In 2020, I saw signs like that all over the place. And a year later, they were still being painted and touched up. I don't see any of those signs anymore for this coming election. We're at a month now, 30 or 31 days from today. I don't see any of those signs. And the signs that I do see are recycled.
Yeah,
I
they
can
still
walk
say 2020 on
from
them.
here. Well, no. I can walk 4 blocks from here and the sign will just say Trump because it's cut in half.
Generically. We're 3 in a row. Yeah, it doesn't matter.
No, it's an old sign.
Yeah.
But the Pence sign, the portion below it, is cut off.
You only have to change 2 letters on that. You can just go to Hobby Lobby and cut out a couple.
Yep, we've talked about that, and I've been saying it since. But it just says Trump.
Yeah.
Does that get the point across? Well, the other point that it gets across is those signs just don't show up in your mailbox. You actually send money to the campaign for them, and they get shipped to you because they won't fit in an envelope.
Yeah.
Well, if you're not getting an updated sign, how much money did you send to the campaign? If you're using one of the signs that you still have from 4 years ago.
Yeah. Well, and we read too much into signs sometimes. I do think there's an enthusiasm. There's a lack of enthusiasm.
Is the lack of enthusiasm.
Doesn't mean
The
they won't
lack
show up
of
and vote.
investment, the lack of enthusiasm, the lack of investment, the lack of concern, like they're winging it. My dad said something too. He said, just because they put Trump in their front yard doesn't mean they're going to put Trump on the ballot.
Oh, if you put a Trump sign in the front yard, you are definitely putting Trump on the ballot. Don't look too much into these signs. I mean, Trump's going to win Florida, first of all, no matter what. Whether there's one sign or a million signs, he's winning Florida.
Here's another thing. Did we really even have to have that conversation in 2016 or 2020?
What do you
Now
mean?
we're talking about the possibility, not the likelihood, but a possibility of Kamala Harris winning winning Florida and or North Carolina.
North Carolina is a possibility. Florida is not a possibility. There's 0% chance. No one is calling that she's going to win Florida. No one is calling.
I'm
Now
not saying
people are
she's
calling.
calling.
The
But what
Senate
we
races
see-
are closer in Florida and Texas than they have been traditionally, but no one is polling.
What's his name? And Colin Allred is leading in Texas, or at least
he
was.
leading?
He was.
I
He
don't
was
think
up a point.
I didn't
He was
see
up
that.
a point about 2 weeks ago, and of course with Helene, I lost track of all that. But he was up a point about 2 weeks ago, and let's just say margin of error. Maybe he's not really up.
He probably isn't, because they've been wrong about this for the last every time Ted Cruz. They always think that Beto O'Rourke's going to beat him.
No,
It is
Beto
close, though.
O'Rourke
I mean,
was never this close. Beto O'Rourke was
I know.
never this close.
Yes, he was. The media talked about it like he was. And the polls had it wrong too on him. People think 3 points is not a big victory. 3 points is a big victory, kind of in almost any rate. Like that's pretty good. And yeah, by
Mac
election
Store
day,
customer support. I just got this email. Mac Store customer support has updated their money request. Updated request details $1,099.99.
so I'm looking at the polls right now, just so you have it. Really, is Texas not on this list? That seems insane.
This is actually coming from PayPal too.
So, yeah, I guess they don't have. That's crazy to me. I don't think. Look, I don't know almost anyone that pays very close attention to polling and all the other stuff that doesn't think the Senate's going for Republicans. Could be here, there, state kind of thing, and that the House will probably go to whoever wins the presidency. But every poll on the presidency is basically coin flip at this point. And so it will be very close. I'd be curious to see what turnout is compared to 2020. I think it will be lower because of the hurricane. I actually think that will be like North Carolina got devastated. There's no way that doesn't affect the election in North Carolina.
That was in mountains.
Well,
that was-
obviously
I
it's
saw
a very
video of one guy saying about how he had personal helicopters that were used to get in to get some of these people out, but it was just him and a buddy in a personal helicopter. That, like, where is the National Guard? Where are, he said he saw in his entire time making all these rescues, he saw a total of 2 Black Hawk helicopters. And he keeps saying about how the news and the government is showing all these people with chainsaws and pickup trucks trying to work their way in to get these people. He says, it's 10 miles of down trees. You're not going to get there anytime soon. And he's lifting 80-year-old women out of their house.
Yeah, and voting is going on right now in North Carolina, by the way. Like, you can do early voting right now, and you can do maybe mail-in right now and stuff. They've already sent maybe you can't do it in person, but you can, at least mail-in stuff is out. North Carolina, is going to be affected by this. Like, the vote totals in North Carolina are absolutely going to be affected, and some of the other states. Now, North Carolina is really the only one where there's it's actually it's a coin toss right now. Georgia, I don't think Georgia will be as affected as much.
I think Trump's got a little bit more of a spread than before in Georgia.
Real Clear Politics has Cruz up by 5 points on Allred, so it's not that close right now. I will be very surprised if Allred. Now, I know that they're a little worried about it. They're at least having to pump money into that they shouldn't have to in Texas.
I don't
But
know. Maybe if Cruz did something, he'd have less of a problem.
I don't like Cruz at all. I think like if he lost, it'd be his own dang fault. I'm just saying, like calling balls and strikes. I don't think he will lose in Texas this time, just like he did in the last 2 times that people
Why?
thought they could beat him. Because the polls say that he's gonna win, and I just don't
No.
believe that.
Why?
You mean like why?
Win?
Oh, because
Will he
we're-
win, or will there be some backdoor thing that helps him?
I think that's ridiculous, Yergs, that you like jump to the conclusion that the only reason someone wins is corruption. That's no different than Donald Trump saying he didn't win the election in 2020.
No, you're forgetting I worked in Texas, and I'm not talking about trips in the Secret Service. I'm talking about a full year in minor league baseball. I see how these people think.
Well, so you're saying the voters will pick Cruz and that's corrupt somehow? Or
No,
what are you saying
I'm
Trump
talking
like
about
he's
somebody
stealing it?
when I said back end, I don't mean the voters. I mean,
So what do you
somebody
mean? What are you accusing Ted Cruz of? Or what are you accusing Texas
I'm not
election
accusing Ted
officials of?
Cruz of anything.
Okay, so, well, who are you accusing of something right now? Because it sounds like you're accusing someone of being
That's
corrupt
it.
and stealing an election,
Yes.
which I don't like, and without proof. You got to look. That's no different than what Donald Trump does and what I hammer him about. The fact that JD Vance couldn't answer that question on Tuesday night, that's what the whole debate boils down to, is that he can't say that Joe Biden won that election fairly in 2020. He still can't say it. No Republican can, because Trump's got him by the balls. It's ridiculous. It's also ridiculous when Democrats do it. It's ridiculous when independents do it too, without evidence.
I got up this morning at 4:00. Everything was going crazy here, as you already know. And 2 hours later, I turned on the AM show that I am definitely applying for, because this guy sucks. But he gets up there saying about how the election controversy and the discrepancies in the 2020 election. Dude, pull your head out of your rear end. See how I didn't swear there? I didn't say the A word.
That's allowed on radio, isn't it? That one's allowed.
If I call somebody an ass because they're a donkey,
you can't say whole, I think, is the problem. Yeah, you can't say that. But you can't say ass, I think. But my point is, you got to bring the receipts for that. You cannot accuse an election of being stolen without bringing the receipts. You got to be able to prove it. That's my point.
JD Vance can say that legitimate, documented immigrants that are working in Springfield, Ohio, his own state, are undocumented illegal aliens.
No, of course not. And I'm not. Did I give him a pass on that ever? No, I've not. I've hammered JD Vance for all that stuff too. But election stuff specifically.
I gotta do more watching your show, by the way.
But I mean, election stuff specifically is this is happening on both sides. Donald Trump took it to a level that no one has before, and so he should be held accountable to that. And I think, I'm going to do that with him. But I'm not going to let anyone, Democrat, Republican, Independent, claim an election was stolen without evidence. I will hammer you on that.
I don't think it was stolen yet. I'm just asking what you think is going to get Ted Cruz reelected.
I think it's because Texas is a red state and they'd rather have a Republican in the Senate than a Democrat. I think that's what it boils down to. Most people don't even like him.
The point that it's this close in Texas, Georgia, Florida, North Carolina should be saying something.
I think in Texas, it's saying that Ted Cruz is very much not popular. I think a more popular Republican would be winning it hands down. It wouldn't have any
100%.
chance of Democrat.
Same thing.
But he's not as liked.
With Marco Rubio, who I don't think is the best either, but he's more popular than Rick Scott.
Yeah.
We're going to lose our...
and I got to go too. But
90. Yeah. And I have a dog that just threw up and is about to again. So I got to get him outside.
Good luck with that.
Great discussion. We'll see you all again. I'll see you all again on Monday, but we'll see Matt and Blake here again next Friday, 11 a.m. Eastern every day, Monday through Friday on the Mastiff Media Network. Go to www.mastiff.media to find out exactly where we're at. Blake, I'll see you again, man. Great show. Good talking to you as always. And
Good talking to you. I'm glad you're back in the house. I'm sorry about your mess. You got to clean up, but I'm glad you're okay.
Yeah, and I got to do that too. I got to start cleaning out other places here that he did jump, did he? Yeah. All right, gang. Hopefully Monday I'll have a camera hooked up as well. I'm going to go take care of my dog, who clearly is not feeling well. Hope you're feeling better than he is. Stay safe. Stay alert. Do your homework. We'll see you again. You've been Up the Middle.
What?
Wake up, goddammit!